Welcome to the Stevia Show. It's the Stevia Show. Helping you expand on what you know. Throw in a meme of the week and a review of the screen. And to have a show that covers everything.
Hey, Team Stevia, and welcome to episode 113 of the Stevia Show.
A talk show podcast that covers pop culture, world news, local artistry, and everything in between.
As always, this is Steven.
And this is Lydia.
And we hope everybody is having a great day. And joining us today is Jenna, and she is the host of the fabulous podcast called Scream Service. So how you doing today, Jenna?
Good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah,
of course.
Anytime. It's been a long time since we've talked shop with another podcast. So we're super stoked about it. And it's also, by the way, super cute. We didn't know this earlier, but the three of us are all coworkers.
Yep.
So that,
that's crazy.
So
yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was like, it with my job, like especially working from home, it's been like, oh yeah, I don't work with anyone, and then it's like, wait, our organization's huge. I work with a ton of people.
Right.
Yeah, because it was funny. We were talking about the vaccine, and then she was like, "This is the industry that I work in," and I was like, "No way, this is the industry that me and Lydia work in." And then she's like, "Do you work here?" I'm like, "Yes." It's just so crazy. like literally, what are the odds? So that's super cool, and we're gonna go ahead and get our sponsorship out of the way really quick. So funding for the Stevia Show is brought to you in part by the following. Bravado Wireless is your go-to when it comes to all things connected, whether it's a new home. I say that all the time, whether it's a new home, it's a new, they apparently sell houses, whether it's a new phone, home internet, or smart accessories, Bravado Wireless has it all. Right now, you can get a Samsung A11, a Samsung 20 FE, or iPhone 11 at half the cost. That's right, 50% off any of these phones throughout March. And for more information, you can contact your local Bravado Wireless store or head to bravadowireless.com.
As well as community members like you. Remember, you can support us on Anchor or Patreon for as little as 99 cents a month. Thank you.
Awesome. So yeah, thank you everybody so much for your support, and plug for Scream Service. They have a Patreon too, which we're going to talk about as well. So be sure to support our fellow podcasters, because us content creators, we love coffee, and that's how we obtain it. So
truly, that's exactly where everyone's money is going. I'm only buying coffee with that money.
Absolutely. So for the meme of the week this week, Daltron is the one who won, and then My Lord Robinson won the week before that. So My Lord Robinson won with the meme saying it's the anime person with the butterfly saying is this, and then it was our stream, and they were like, is this a cooking show? Because they legitimately thought I thought we were being trolled at first, but they legitimately thought that our Super Smash Brothers stream was a Stevia cooking show, and for apparently he wanted to learn for his diabetes, and I was like, this is either just like way too much of a coincidence or somebody's trolling us. I don't know, but either way, it was it was cool. Yes. And the meme was great. And then Daltron won on the meme with the guy saying, "Come on, do something," poking on it, because it's for the AMC stocks that we all tried to get rich on after the GameStop fiasco, whenever they decided only certain people can rig the stock market, not the average everyday working class. So that's probably why we didn't get rich off of AMC. So congratulations to the two of them. And then Lydia, you watched, I'll let you introduce it. What did you see?
I watched Raya and the Last Dragon. Jenna, have you seen it?
Not yet.
Oh,
because it's one of those Disney things where you have to pay to watch, right?
Yes.
I'm such a cheapskate, so no, not yet.
No, yeah, I understand. Listen, if I didn't have Logan and Alexis, which by the way, they're engaged, Woo. Team Stevia, I'm so excited, but we'll talk about that later. So if I didn't have Logan and Alexis splitting it with me, so we went like halvesies, so it was just 15 each, then I probably wouldn't have done it, but I have watched it like 4 times now, so I have gotten my bang for my buck on it.
That's good.
So Raya in the Last Dragon. So it basically, the description is, long ago in the fantasy world of Kumandra, humans and dragons lived together in harmony. However, when sinister monsters known as the Druin threatened the land, the dragons sacrificed themselves to save humanity. Now, 500 years later, those same monsters have returned, and it's up to a lone warrior to track down the last dragon and stop the Druin for good. Basically, yes, Steven.
Can I guess who the last warrior is, or the lone warrior is?
Yes, please.
Is it Raya or Raya?
It is Raya.
Awesome.
Good job,
Context
Steven.
clues. Okay, cool. Sorry.
10
Had to throw that in
points.
there. Okay.
10 points for Steven. My notes on this movie are basically really short. From the story to the animation, this movie has you hooked from the very beginning. Disney does it again, empowering young women of all ethnicities and showing that Disney princesses aren't exactly what they used to be. I gave it a 10 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes has it at 94%. It is by far the best Disney movie out right now. And I just feel like they keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and they're better and better and better. And the animation, the way I felt watching Raya and the Last Dragon is how I felt when I watched Brave in the movie theater the first time. If you remember Brave, it was the pinnacle of animation with all of her hair, and it was wavy. You saw every curl. That's how this movie is, but it's better than that. And it's just like amazing. So the story was great. I highly recommend. It'll probably be free on Disney Plus in a couple months. So
that's when I'll see it.
If you want to wait for it and then watch
I'll
it.
I'll discuss it in a couple of months.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I've watched it 4 times now. So
well, hey, at least you're getting your money's worth for it.
Exactly. That's what I say.
Yeah, and it's not like you're going to theaters all the time anyway, so it's like it's kind of nice to have like a special occasion movie where you're like, I did it. Yeah, I know. I bought Barb and Star just a couple hours ago and watched that, and that's the first time I've paid for a movie in a year. So
yep.
But I had to.
Had to.
Is it funny that we all miss paying for movies? You know, like
I miss paying for movies so much.
I don't miss the cost for sure. I've definitely like saved the most money of my life this past year, but I definitely miss the experience that came with the cost. So I do miss paying for the movie in that sense.
Yeah.
The popcorn, the drinks, there were
and just
seats.
good sound, just a quiet place. Like
no phone.
Nobody bothers you. It's fantastic.
One day.
Back in the before times.
Except for the guy up in the corner that like has a coughing fit or something. That's so annoying.
Yeah. Well, hey.
Or the
even more annoying.
Yeah. That was part of the charm though, you know, was the coughing guy, because now if somebody coughs in the movie theater, you're like, holy shit, you have COVID, you know, and we're all going to panic and
I'm
go
like,
away.
Coughing guy can never show his face again.
Right. Sorry, coughing guy.
There.
Yeah. You gotta go. Get the usher, make him leave.
Right. We're out of here. All right. So today we are going to be interviewing Jenna, and she has, again, a fantastic podcast called Scream Service that we're going to be talking about. But first, Jenna, can you introduce yourself for our listeners? Like, you know, obviously your name, where you're from, how long you've been doing Scream Service, stuff like that.
Sure. I'm Jenna Jr. Jr. isn't my real last name, but my real last name is German. It's 9 letters long. So Jr. is just, I wouldn't say my stage name. It's also my professional pen name, so you can just know me as that. I was born in Chicago, but I would not say that I'm from Chicago because I've lived in Tulsa for 20 of my 26 years. So I'm from Tulsa essentially. And I've been doing Scream Service for about a year and a half. We started in October 2019. And we first started out in the Tulsa Central Library because they had an audio lab, and that's where I was doing everything. And then when the pandemic happened, it all moved from home, but actually it's been a blessing in disguise because we're able to talk to people long distance. So we've had a lot of interesting guests that we wouldn't have had typically. So that's actually been really rewarding in a weird, strange way. And I live at home in Tulsa with 2 cats and my partner of almost 4 years. And yeah, it's great. It's a good life.
Awesome. Well, congratulations.
Sounds like a good life.
Yeah.
Love it.
Congratulations on the year and a half for Scream Service and 4 years with you and your partner. That's amazing. And we definitely understand starting out in a library. That's where we started out too, was at our old place of work.
That's where we started too.
Was in the library.
Nice.
Right. Yeah. We didn't, I haven't been to the Central
good
Library. Yeah, it really is. Cause again, everybody's quiet. The coughing guy's somewhere, you know, else and not coughing during your podcast. So that's great.
Right. Yeah. And if you mess up, that was my thing. It was like, I knew nothing about creating a podcast whatsoever. And so with the Central Library, they have everyone's just right outside the recording studio door. So I would just like pop open the door and be like, hey, it's doing this weird thing. Do you know what this is? And sometimes the answer was no. Sometimes the answer was yes, but we always figured it out, which was really fun and a really great experience that I do miss that part of it, but I was able to learn on my own through them. So shout out to the library.
Love that.
Always shout out to
What
the
inspired
library.
you to start Scream Service? Oh.
Shout out the library still, but what inspired me to start Screen Service, I can't like even pin it down to a certain like aha moment. But I think overall it was me getting tired of not having the horror conversations I wanted. I would go to like horror functions, not conventions, but like movie premieres, and there's certain events in town for certain movies, which I won't shout out just to not make anyone feel bad. But sometimes I would encounter men who would just explain at me about the movie I know about that I'm literally coming to see. And that really frustrated me. And I was like, I don't think that horror needs to be a gatekeeping kind of community. And so I just treat my podcast kind of, I always say it's like a slumber party that can get deeper. And so, slumber party conversations, you're just kind of like full of excitement. It's really casual and everyone's having fun. And then sometimes slumber parties, evolve into those deep conversations about life, humanity, all of the philosophical side. And I feel like our podcast really does do that. So I'm really happy with how our podcast has evolved. But I think just initially, I really just wanted to talk to my friends. I just wanted to have a conversation where someone was not trying to play trivia with me about something I liked. That's really frustrating to me. Because I still haven't seen every horror movie in the world. People assume I have, and that's wrong. I watch other movies a lot. I read a lot. I do a lot of other things. And so I just wanted it to be kind of hyper-focused of just having a good time, not trying to one-up anybody, and just bringing people on who are excited about the genre and excited about anything, even horror adjacent. It doesn't have to be a movie. It could be an urban legend. It could be a story their mom told them. Like, it could be anything. But my point is that everyone feels comfortable. That's what I want more than anything.
Yeah. So I'm glad you kind of touched on some of the things that you've talked about in your podcast, because I think that's important for the listeners to know. So what do you usually talk about horror wise?
Yeah, we're really broad. Basically, I just tell people if it's a little spooky, it's totally qualified. So we have quite the range, which I think is what kind of sets us apart. It's not just movies, which we totally cover movies a lot. But sometimes it will be like we had a park ranger come on and talk about some more like myths that people have about being in the woods alone, but also some local Oklahoma history that was really fun. We have Oklahoma true crime episodes that are really short, that are fun for people to check out. We have like ghost experience people have. And sometimes we do ridiculous sides of horror. So my partner seems to always be the one who hops on for those, but we'll watch like bad vampire movies from the 80s and just do a movie marathon of that, or read pulpy bad horror novels and talk about how ridiculous they are. So it could really be anything. As long as it's a little dark, it's allowed, because I am interested in darkness, I guess, even though I consider myself a pretty positive person.
And that's funny that you say that, because I feel like there's quite a bit of horror fans that are like that. Like, you wouldn't like pin them as a horror fan.
Right.
Yeah. And so Stephen Walker from When the Clock Strikes, he's a big fan of horror, and he actually submitted like 6 questions for you for Stevia sound off. So,
awesome.
So be ready for that.
I think he listens to my podcast.
He does. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he gives us a lot of cool feedback when we post stories. So thanks for continuing your support. I'm always shocked when people like my podcast. I'm like, wow, okay, like it's so great to have you.
Yeah, and you actually mentioned your park ranger episode, and that's one of my favorite episodes you've done. I thought that was super cool.
Thanks. Yeah, that's a longtime friend of mine who has like a ton of he's really diverse in the sense that he's been a park ranger for a really long time, but he also is a huge history nerd. So he has like all of these things working for him where he is just so knowledgeable, and you can ask him about pretty much anything you've ever heard about Oklahoma, and he'll be like this and this and this. Like, so I'm glad you enjoy it. A lot of people really did. And I find the woods really creepy. So I was like, please come on.
Yes.
Like,
yes. Especially by yourself.
Yes. Yeah. I won't do it.
Yeah. Mm-mm. How long have you been a fan of horror?
You know, a lot of people grow up with horror and that's like a cute little memory they have where they're like, I watched Chucky with my dad and oh, I love it. And that's not me. That's not me at all. I was raised in an insanely strict religious household. Love my parents though, no shade to them, but they definitely were of the mind that if you watch a horror movie, a demon could just come into our house. And so let's not do it. So I liked reading like dark things. Like I mean, I definitely paged through scary stories to tell in the dark, but I wasn't allowed to check them out from the library. And I was always drawn to that kind of element, or I can still tell you where the Sky Took Library's paranormal section is, because I would just like walk over there as a 7-year-old and like flip through that as fast as I could. And so I like the urban legend side of horror, but I wasn't like familiar with horror media until I was a teenager and my parents kind of stopped being as strict as they were. And I think I wasn't even, and then I was scared of it way too much to enjoy it until I was probably like 17, 18 and finally like, okay, this isn't real. I'm okay. Like, especially like PG-13 horror movies. Those are all really jump scare kind of horror movies, I feel like. So when you're older and you can watch all of the rated R movies, you realize there's nuance that you weren't getting before. Yeah. And it kind of changed my mind where I was like, okay, not all of them are trying to make me like pee my pants. They actually want me to have a good time. So yeah, so I'd say like my late teens is when I started getting serious about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
That is great. So Jenna, who do you consider your creative influences to be?
I really liked that question when you sent that to me yesterday. I was like, oh man, I've never thought about that in my entire dang life. So I really thought about it yesterday. So I would say the two big ones, I'm sorry if you can hear my cats fighting. They're lovers and they're angry. So I think like the two biggest are probably authors. I want to say it's Pee Wee Herman just because I love the style of Pee Wee Herman, but me as a person, not so much. So the real answers would be Lemony Snicket, the series of unfortunate events. That was the dark book.
Yep.
Yeah. I have the tattoo of the eye on my left ankle. I got that when I was 19. I'm like a diehard fan of that series, but I wasn't allowed to read Harry Potter or anything like that. So that was like my series as a kid. And that really taught me about dark humor, irony. Also taught me a lot of big words that no one I knew those words.
Yeah.
And really shaped my sense of humor. So that really changed me as a person. And then another person that really changed my like creative side is probably Shirley Jackson, who's another horror writer. I'm actually wearing a shirt of her book, but I'm
Haunting of Hill House.
Yes, my favorite book. But she is a creative icon to me because she is, first off, she's like fighting the genre, because basically no one wanted her in any genre that she wrote in. Like women thought she was too scary, men thought she was too phony. She just was constantly fighting with critics. Her husband was literally a critic, like a literary critic. And she was constantly just trying to get people's approval of her work, which is fantastic. But the thing I really like about her is she is was a very anxious person and used that anxiety to write really unique horror, and not just horror, but just any of her fiction. She was really able to harness that feeling of anxiety and loneliness and being the outsider and all of those negative things that happened to her. She was able to transform into beautiful, disturbing work that's, timeless. It's still super popular to this day. And that's when I kind of realized for myself that you can use kind of your struggles to make something that's really enjoyable, but also like reflective of how you feel, so people can relate to you. So she is just awesome. And I think she's so cool. I wish that we were friends, but she's gone. So not today.
Not this time.
I've tried to contact her through a Ouija board so many times. She just will not reply. That's very rude, honestly.
Yeah, but say rude.
Yeah.
So rude.
Yeah. How could she?
So while you take a drink of your water, what are your earliest creative podcasts or projects? And did Scream Server start out as a podcast initially?
Yeah, earliest creative projects. I'm a pretty creative person, and I'd say like the earliest way that shows that I've always been a writer. So like even before I could no letters. I just like make loops on a paper and be like, everyone sit down. I got a story to tell you, like, which is really annoying for my family. But I'm still a writer. I've been published a few times, and I'm really proud of that. And that's what got me my tutoring job is I'm a good writer and I can help people be better writers. So that's really cool and full circle feeling. So that's definitely like my creative focus. But I dabbled in being an artist for a little bit. I had like 2 shows. Wayne Coyne came to one, so that's like my claim to fame, but I really didn't want to make commissions of people, so I kind of just stopped advertising that I can doodle. But then so the podcast actually wasn't going to be a podcast. In the beginning, Scream Service was the name of a subscription service where I would write a scary short story a month and just send it out to people. But the logistics freaked me out. So I was like, no, never mind about that. Like that's a lot of pressure. So I really liked the name still though. And I was like, I'm just going to keep this like in the back of my head. And if something comes up, I'll go for it. And then when I started considering doing a podcast, I was like, oh, I can use Scream Service because it was originally going to be called Campfire Ghouls. And there was going to be another female co-host, and then they backed out. And it was like, okay, so I'm a campfire ghoul. It's just me. That doesn't sound as good. And I was like, Scream Service it is. So that's how that kind of all came together, which I don't think anybody knows that. So
no, that's trivia. Awesome. That's really cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. I couldn't imagine writing a short story for people. Like that's a super awesome idea though. But the logistics, like that would be something that I'd be like, afraid of.
Definitely. Sure. I still write zines and I will post when I make zines and I can send them out. Those are short stories. But thinking of a new one every month, I was really intimidated, and I was like, what if it sends to the wrong house? People are going to be mad at me. Like I just didn't want to deal with all of that.
Right.
Gotcha. So talking about your podcast, it's super rad that you have a book club associated with your podcast. So how do you do that virtually? And then do you or your fans pick the books?
Good question. Yeah, I used to host a book club, and then I stopped and I was really missing it. So I was just like, why not just like do this with the podcast? So virtually, it's really easy to join if people are listening. I feel like there's a miscommunication that people think it's like you have to be hazed or do like a blood oath to come in. It's really easy. There's no rules. Just tell me I want to be in the book club and I will add you to, we have a group chat, and all the group chat is me telling people when we're meeting, which is usually the middle of the month right now because we're super behind. And it will be like the link to a Zoom call. And that's essentially it. Sometimes people will like start texting inside jokes we made during book club, which I feel bad for the like 10 people in that group chat that were not in that meeting. They'll be like, what are they talking about? So it's really easy. We just do it through Zoom, but it's been, like I said earlier, it's been awesome to be able to connect to people that don't live in town, because actually our book club is pretty vast when it comes to locations. We have like a lot of Texas people. Scream Service has a huge Texas following.
Shout out Texas.
Yeah, shout out to Texas, which
is it because there's like lots of spooky in Texas or what?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I know where some of them have come from. It's really like this group that have all referred their friends, which God bless them. And but like their friends will tell their friends, and it's been really interesting. But they're all really awesome and really passionate about the podcast. So I love it. But we have like a listener in Utah that comes to all of our book club meetings. We have some people from California that come to almost all of our meetings.
That's cool.
So yeah, it's really through Zoom we've been able to have this national book club, which we would totally not have had if we met in person. And book clubs started with the pandemic, I'm pretty sure. I think maybe we had one book right before the pandemic, but then it was immediately like lockdown after that. So so it's been really kind of a good thing in a disguise, but yeah, it's been really nice.
That's so cool. I love that. I love that idea.
And then answering the second question, sorry, I've totally forgot. So the first year we did it, I picked all the books because I really wanted to make people read things they weren't used to, even if a big portion of our readers are not usually readers, which is awesome and like makes my little literature major heart happy. But the ones that do read horror fiction, usually, I mean, that's a male, like straight male dominated genre for sure. And so I didn't want that to happen at all with my book club. Like I think we've only had maybe 4 straight white guys in the whole time we've done it. So
good.
Yeah, we don't need that much. And I'm saying that as a huge Stephen King fan. Like I would marry Stephen King at the age he is now. Like I love him. Like so I'm really not saying like, oh man, they're gross, like nothing like that. It's just more like this genre has done everything it can to push out marginalized groups in its history. So I'm trying to kind of make that balance a little more fair. And no complaints though. That's been an awesome part of it is with last year's, a lot of people have reached out to me and said I would have never picked this book up, I would have had no idea this even existed. So that's been really awesome to know that I'm able to kind of promote people that are worth being as famous as Stephen King. And then this year I did open it up to like people to suggest. There were some that I didn't take. One was a book that doesn't exist, and I don't think that they know.
Oh, okay.
They said the Necromonicon, which is it's an Evil Dead, but it's also like a reference to an H.P. Lovecraft thing, but it's not a real book. I just want everyone to know that it's not a physical book. You cannot actually read it. It's just like the Sorcerer's Stone. It's like a plot device. It's not a real book you can find. So that one, no. But then we have like, I think we have 3 straight white guys this year because of opening it up to people, but they've all been good. So it's okay. But
you haven't had any of the well actually guys, correct?
Right.
Okay, good.
No. And like the people who suggested the white guys were women, so I was like, okay, we're gonna like not fight about
let
this
it happen this time.
Yeah, but but to like again to balance that score, our upcoming book is a non-binary trans author. Our book that we just read is a gay author who wrote the screenplay for Beetlejuice. Shout out Michael McDowell, he's awesome. We have a graphic novel about the Muslim experience through a horror lens. So we've definitely got a lot of diversity coming people's way. So don't get too comfortable with the straight white guys because they're going to quickly be gone. So
it's not just Stephen King.
It's not. We have not read a Stephen King book for the book club, but we have done a Stephen King short story episode because Night Shift is the best book of all time. And he's a great short story writer.
Yeah, he has to come up sometimes because, like, horror.
He is the king.
He's the king of horror, basically.
He really is. Yeah.
But there's lots of other queens out there. You know what I mean?
There's tons of queens of horror. There's tons of royalty of horror. There's a lot of people that and there's a lot of people that horror fans like that don't realize that they're not straight or white. Like Michael McDowell. Everybody loves Beetlejuice and Nightmare Before Christmas, which he has a hand in both. And it's like, yeah, but he's also like he was out gay in 1980. And so and like Clive Barker, who did Hellraiser, also an out gay author who's just incredible, and I love him so much. But yeah, so there's tons of people that people may not even realize they're supporting diverse creators, but I like to make it like really open. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's awesome. So Jenna, why do slasher movies have a charm to them?
So I wanted to ask you guys, why do you think slasher movies have a charm to them?
Flipping
it's the old switcheroo.
How the turn
Uno reverse.
Yeah, the Uno reverse card.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I just like whenever I wrote this question, I just thought like, why do we enjoy like slasher movies?
Why
like
do we
people
love it?
Because people are getting like cut up and stuff like that, and it's like, but why do we like that?
But I went to every Saw Saw 1 through 7. Like that's the epitome of slasher. Like they're getting cut up.
Yeah, you're
legit.
really getting into that slasher.
Why do I love it? I don't know.
I think it's because it's just like.
Am I a psycho?
I think.
Yes, that's actually why I came on. This is actually an intervention,
Yeah.
Lydia. We're really worried about you.
That's awesome. I mean,
Surprise.
yeah, surprise, double reverse card.
Yeah.
But I mean, for me, I think they have a charm for them because like it's not something that would really happen. Like, you know, like Saw wouldn't happen IRL. Well, hopefully
Right.
not. Hopefully wouldn't happen in real life.
Right.
But I just think it's something that like the violence or whatnot, like we're just drawn to it naturally. So I think that's why they have like, and that's why they overdo it, because we were not used to seeing that, you know. That's my guess.
I think there's like two schools of thought about this, which, not to like sound like a nerd about what I'm about to say, but one, I think that a big draw of it is, you know, the draw to darkness, and also the I mean, your body naturally emits adrenaline when watching, you know, violence or any like energetic, like you're going through trauma visually, and you're escaping it, and so you do get an adrenaline high after watching like a slasher movie, especially like if there's a chase scene in it. Like The Shining they've like recorded how your heart rate goes up like you're almost jogging when you're watching The Shining, so you get a huge adrenaline boost through that. So there's like the, you know, the physical aspect of it. You do, like, we are drawn as human beings to like wanting to know dark things and getting kind of excited by it. But I think also there's the psychological side. And I think that slasher movies I think that that's a broad genre. So I think for some people, some slasher movies are too realistic. So my example in my mind is Maniac with Elijah Wood. That movie could happen to anybody. That movie, you know, even Silence of the Lambs, like that is based on a true, like a bunch of different true stories smashed together.
Right.
So we do know that sometimes that is possible. And so some people will take that as, I'm watching this and I'm safe. So I'm like, maybe they have past trauma and they're able to escape this trauma through watching it in a fictionalized, controlled setting. That's definitely something that's discussed a lot in horror, especially with women. But another thing could be just like escaping it through kind of more ridiculous hyper violence horror. So like Evil Dead or Saw, that's not going to happen to me. And you're like, okay, it's not a guy following me into a parking lot going to take me. It's like, no one's going to do this.
Right.
And so that's kind of a relief. And you can kind of see it almost as a dark comedy where it's like, that's so ridiculous, it could never happen. I'm having entertainment, like good feelings with that. So sometimes I think, you know, it's really depending on like what slasher movie you're talking about, because sometimes people don't like slasher movies because they are triggering for them or reminding them of like an anxiety they actually have. But sometimes it's the like relief of like, well, that's never going to happen to me. Phew, like I'm definitely not going to get in a cabin in the woods with a guy with a chainsaw arm, and you know, like it's not going to be that insane. So it can go a lot of different ways, and slasher is definitely one of those terms where I think people have a totally different, everyone has a different movie in their brain when you say like slasher movie. Like to me, I think of like Halloween, but you thought Saw, and it's like, you know, it could be all different kinds. So it is an interesting phenomena, but I think it's just like we're drawn to it, and then we have like some, you know, origin story about why we're enjoying it.
yeah
It's definitely, and that honestly is probably my least favorite subgenre of horror, but I do have favorites. Like I will like force people to watch You're Next, and they'll be like, this is awesome, like we're all having fun. But like that Maniac movie, that's one of like the only horror movies I've never finished, because I was like, like this is just what I worry about all the time. So it can really go a lot of different ways for a lot of different people.
It's your turn, Steven.
Oh, no, I just asked that.
No, I asked that.
Oh no,
You
you're
answered
right.
the
You're right.
question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was like,
I'm
I think
sorry.
Lydia asked it
You're
just
right.
to be
Okay, I
the mediator
apologize.
here.
Yeah, I
He's
apologize.
staring at me. We had a
Yeah.
staring contest.
like-
Just that
We
I
did.
was
That's
like,
what it was. It was a staring contest.
Yeah, I called it.
Yeah. Lydia
I'm
is
the
the
ref.
winner. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
that'd be a ref for a staring contest. That's a good idea. Okay.
That's my new job.
Okay.
I'm taking applications. If you guys need someone to come in and
Okay.
keep you honest.
Deal. Okay. So, what do you think is generally scarier, horror books or horror movies, and what are some of your favorites of each one?
Yeah, that's a great question. Oh, I read more horror books and watch horror movies. Do I think they're scarier? Not necessarily. I think they last longer in my brain. I think of like horror movies as like a quick little sprint, like, oh, that was scary, and now I'm done and I can go to bed. And then a book, I'm like, I'm picking it up and I'm back in this haunted house again. Okay, this is my week. Like, but I think me personally, I definitely get a little more spooked with horror movies because the visuals are right there. You can't like use your imagination to tone it down at all, which is definitely, I think, what I do when I'm reading like an upsetting horror book scene. I'm like, let's pretend like everyone's a gummy bear, right? Like, nothing's really happening to anybody here.
Not
like,
the gumdrop buttons. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just reading Shrek, the novelization every time.
Yes.
That's a horror book, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think, but I mean, it's again subjective for sure. Like some people really think that some books are really scary, but I'm a part of the horror literature Reddit, and it's like the most commonly asked questions, like, what's the scariest book you ever read? Because I can't find anything, and I've read all of these suggestions and I'm never scared. And I think it really is your imagination coming in to like rescue you and be like, don't get freaked out. Like, and so
Right.
a movie, you have no control. So I think that the movie's going to be scary in the sense that you're like jumping and you're like scared of something specific. But I think books can be more creative and entertaining because there's a lot of effort put into them that you wouldn't have when you're watching a movie. So favorite horror books, I mean, Haunting of Hill House is awesome. I do like the 2018 Netflix adaptation. A lot of people think I wouldn't just because they're totally different, but I love that adaptation.
I thought it was awesome.
Made me cry. It makes me cry on command just thinking about the ending.
So
of that.
good.
Like,
Yes.
if you have ever experienced grief, watch that show because it really does speak to me in a lot of like personal ways, and it is scary. There's definitely some good jump scares in there, and it's one that you can rewatch because there's hidden ghosts in every episode, and I love finding those, but also I don't like finding those. But the book is totally different. I one time led a book club for that book, and everyone had just seen the Netflix one because it was in 2018, and they were like, what the heck is this?
Like, what is this?
You tricked me. This is a neurotic woman in a castle. I'm like,
I have been duped. Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. I love The Elementals by Michael McDowell. It's one of my favorite horror books. It's a great example of like Southern Gothic horror, which he does really, really well. And it uses sand as a scary plot device, and you'd think that's stupid, but it's really, really good.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then Night Shift by Stephen King is probably like one of my favorite books of all time, because that's one of the first books that did make me jump and freak me out. And he's people criticize him for not writing an ending. So if you're one of those people, Night Shift is where I feel like he ends every single one perfectly, because short stories, I think, is actually his strongest wheelhouse. And Clive Barker's books of blood are also really fun if you like body horror. If you're like reading horror books and you're like, this isn't gross enough, Clive Barker is the master of that. And then you can move on to Poppy Z. Bright, who is a trans man. So, but when they wrote those books, their pronouns were she, her, and their name was Poppy at the time. So they still use that like as their writer's name. So it's kind of confusing, but he is the master of nasty. So if people want extreme, like, go there, because he writes some really sick stuff.
Oh, wow.
But some people really enjoy that, and I can actually read grosser books than watch grosser movies because my brain is like, it's just paper, chill out, you're fine. But movies like, it's right there. So
They're all gummy
and then,
bears.
yeah, gummy bears every time. And then movies, I'm a huge fan of The Ring. I think it's so fun. Like I rewatched it like in October. Oh, it's still scary. Like that's what I was like,
it's
still
scary.
really scary. Yeah, and it's PG-13, and so that
How
is a real
still
feat.
scary? I'm an adult now. It's still
Yeah.
scary.
I love like the idea of like this object is going to get you. Like it's a haunted VHS tape, and that sounds dumb, but it's not. Like I just like that you like, you know, incite a curse against your will is really like frightening. And it really holds up to me. I know that this movie isn't perfect by any means, but I love Insidious as well as like good popcorn fun.
Oh, wow.
Jumpy. But then if you want to go like really highbrow, I love the French film Eyes Without a Face. My partner and I dressed up as that for Halloween once, and no one knew who we were, but it's really strange movie, and Billy Idol wrote that song after watching that movie. So there's some trivia for that one. Or Hausu, which is Japanese, and that's just like being on drugs without taking anything. And that's from the 70s, so that's really fun. There's a bunch. And The Shining, you can't go wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's perfect.
That's a good list.
It's a list that changes all the time.
Good list right there. I'm impressed with the list right now.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Some people would say that's too basic, but I really believe I'm like, don't like feel ashamed about what you like. Like if your favorite horror movie is, you know, something you saw when you were 15 years old and it's really stupid to other people, if you like it, who cares? Like enjoy it. So yeah, I'm trying to change my list from not being as pretentious as I used to pretend I was. Just being like, The Ring is good. The Ring is really good.
It stands up.
It really does.
So
it
Jenna,
still frightens me.
If you could collaborate with anyone, who would it be and why?
Yeah, that's a tough question because like part of me is like, I'm an introvert and that freaks me out. Like it's like, yes, I should ask people to talk to me. It's like, oh, maybe not. But I think I would be like the most chill with horror authors and feeling more comfortable with them, just because I feel a little more well-versed. If that kind of trivia element of liking something comes up, I'm a little like more solid. So there's like a horror author from the 90s. Well, she like peaked in the 90s. Her name is Kathy Koja, and she wrote this book called The Cipher, which used to be the most expensive book I owned, and then they reprinted it last year, and so now the value's down. But I don't care about that. But it was like my white whale. Like I was trying to find it, and I was on like a list for it for years and years and years, and I finally got it, and I was like, oh my god, I have this rare horror book, everyone's gonna think I'm so cool. And then the year after I got it, they were like, hey, we're re-releasing it, and never mind. But she's really cool because basically like in the 90s pulp horror was dying out. It wasn't nearly as big of a deal. And so that actually made publishers take a risk and start hiring more women because they were like, well, we're losing money anyway, so if they fail, who cares? But they actually like made an uptick, which they didn't think would happen. And she wrote this book called The Cipher, and it's like the most mind-bendy, nasty book, but she seems really nice. And so I bought a signed book from her, and she gave me a postcard, and I used my partner's PO box, so she wrote him a postcard, and I was like, what a nice gesture. Like,
that was nice.
Yes. And so I was like, I would love to talk to her because she's like fighting basically to be relevant when they hired her. But that book is like really popular now, and it's considered like a cult classic for horror. And so like authors like that who just like had to kind of make their way in the genre. I mean, if Clive Barker wanted to talk to me, I would say yes in a heartbeat, but I'd be so intimidated by him. I'd just be like, you're a master. Like, so I don't know. It would be really hard for me to collaborate. So I feel like maybe more indie creators would be like more my wheelhouse. So I don't feel like I have to be like, and I've read all your work since 1985, and you remember when you got married and then you got divorced? Like, you know, like I don't want to when Chris Farley's like interviewing people, that Saturday Night Live sketch where he's like interviewing Paul McCartney, he's like, remember the Beatles? That was cool. That would be me. So, it makes me nervous, but I'm always down to collaborate with like I say normal people, but non-celebrity status people. That is definitely what I enjoy, is just having a conversation and hanging out with people. So if you guys ever want to collaborate with me and come on Scream Service and talk about anything spooky, the door is wide open.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're down.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's actually
Steven might be scared, but
that's actually a really good segue into the next question, because I'm not too big into horror. I'm huge into suspense. So like I love like A Clockwork Orange, like, and that's one of my favorite movies and books. I love like, of course, like The Shining, you know, Misery, stuff like that. So if you're just now getting into horror, and like Midsommar, I love Midsommar because they didn't.
Oh, literally, you don't like it either?
Oh, I don't.
I have a 2-hour episode about why I hate it, and I'm so glad.
I went probably 15-minute tangent when I did my media review over it, because I was like, no, okay. I don't like this.
Yes, I'm gonna have to find that and listen to it, because I feel like I'm alone, and I feel like I'm going crazy, because every guest I have. Yeah, every guest I have is like, I love Midsommar. And like, well, you can just hop right off. No, I'm kidding.
See you later.
No, I'm
getting kicked off my own podcast.
Yeah, did you leave?
I'm gonna have to listen to yours. You're gonna have to let me know what it's called so I can go back, because I probably agree with every single thing you said.
Yes. And I did it as like a debate with my friend Cody, who used to work at Circle Cinema. So it had just like come out, and he loved it and I hated it. And so we got into a really good, like, deep discussion about death, but I still, I watched it again the night after we finished recording, and I was like, no, I still hate this. So
yeah, see, I watched it
but it's okay that you like it.
Okay,
it's
good.
Okay
because I watched it twice to make sure I did like it, and I was like, yeah, this is actually really good. But I'm not gonna, of course, hate. I can see why people don't like it. I can absolutely see that.
Too, I can see why people like it. Steven doesn't often rewatch movies, let alone watch movies, and so he did watch it twice, and it's like, okay, he likes it, but I still like.
What was the movie we were talking about that I didn't see? Parent Trap. Yeah, that was a classic one. Yeah, I'm just so bad at movies. Yeah, it was funny because
Steven and I are long lost twins. We found out. So
yes.
Wow.
But
and I said we could have a Parent Trap moment.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't know what that means. Yeah.
He's like, are they twins?
Yeah, but then it was funny because Jenna said your podcast literally has pop culture in the tagline. I'm like, yeah, that's Lydia's thing. Like, it's not.
Yeah,
like she's way more in tune into it. So where would you recommend, I guess, like one book and one movie, if you had to say, hey, here's your gateway into horror, what would you choose?
Yeah, again, super subjective. I really like hearing about like what people are drawn to, like what made them want to try horror in the first place, and then I try to like pick based on that so that they're not like disappointed. But like Stranger on the Street, oh gosh, book probably, like I would say like probably start with a Stephen King thing, because while he is the king, he's also like kind of I don't want to say basic, but like a good introduction for sure. So I would say read Carrie from Stephen King, because that is a really good book, not just about horror, but about bullying, about being the outsider, about, you know, feeling like you're not living up to people's expectations. And even though there's a huge critique about Stephen King writing women, I do think he does a really good job with that book, because it's his first book and his wife was like helping him a lot. So I think that's a great starting point, and it's shorter than a lot of his books. So if people aren't big readers, it's pretty easily digestible. Yeah, so I would say that's a good intro, because then you've read technically a classic horror book and you can like brag to your friends, but it's also like showing you that horror can be an emotional experience, and it's not just like guts and stabbing and anything like that, even though we know there's a lot of blood in Carrie. movie is harder to me because if someone's like not this sounds maybe like if someone's kind of a softie and like worried, I usually will try to do like I'll usually do like throw on Beetlejuice or something where it's kind of like family friendly horror, or like Coraline. That's a great
Coraline. Yeah.
Who doesn't love Coraline? My lord,
I got my name from Beetlejuice.
Lydia, I think we're best friends,
Lydia
actually. I think you and I are meant to be best friends.
I just got shoved out. Is it a notice?
Yeah, sorry.
We went
Again, bye. I keep
Peace.
trying to hint that you should leave, and now it's just getting awkward. No, no, I don't know where you got your name, Steven, so I can't compliment you.
Yeah, I'm just messing around. I'm just messing.
No,
with you.
I'm teasing you.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sarcastic. But yeah, the Coraline is a good introduction because it's technically like a fantasy, especially being written by Neil Gaiman, who does have horror stories, and I think he should be like acknowledged, but blah blah blah. But I think it's like creepy, and that can kind of get you into more like more traditional horror. I say like try to watch older horror movies. Don't start now. We're in like an art house generation of horror, and people can enjoy them. Midsommar actually I think is a good introduction to horror, because it is a horror movie, but it doesn't go as hard as some other ones, and it's definitely like it introduces you to the subject matter emotionally first, and then everything comes after. So I think a lot of people who don't like horror love Midsommar, and that's not shade. I just think that's the truth. So that might be a good starting point, even though I don't love that movie as like a seasoned horror person. It's probably a great introduction, and I just came at it way too late. Like, but it's got its worth. I don't think it's like I don't think it's a terrible movie. I just think it's not as great as everyone says it is.
I agree. Before we head to Stevia sound off, because we do have some questions from Team Stevia, where can we find you? What platforms can we find Scream Service on?
Yeah, so we're
Tell us your Instagrams, your Facebooks, all the things.
Facebook, definitely not. I'm really like I've got off of Facebook once grandparents started joining, and I'm really woefully I should have one. I don't. So we only have an Instagram social media wise, which is just Scream Service Podcast. Yeah, I wish I was like smarter and made more things, but that's just my wheelhouse. And that's all. If it works, then it works, That's we have an email. If people have questions and they don't want to talk to me on Instagram, it's just screamservicepodcast@gmail.com. So if you want to talk to me via email, you totally can. We have one listener who exclusively does that, so you wouldn't be alone. Then like listening wise, we're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and then you could go on Buzzsprout for pretty much all of the other listening devices. I've tried to sign us up for Stitcher, which has been a request for a long time, and it just like keeps rejecting me, and I don't know what that glitch is. So for now, that's just the only ways, but we'll definitely work on it. And we do have a Patreon, so we do have early access episodes. So I think starting from October of last year, all of our episodes are on Patreon as well, except for our Christmas episode, because it took me 9 hours to make. And so I just like uploaded it like for everyone. I was like, Merry Christmas, like get it out of here.
There it is.
And our Patreon has bonus episodes, which I think people are like, not to like toot my own horn, but people are missing out. They're really good and they're really funny usually. So I really enjoy our bonus episodes, and there's a lot of different kinds of bonus episodes up there. And then like the highest tier, we have a movie party once a month, and that's been super fun. We like have a lot of inside jokes because of that movie party, but it's really just like 4 or 5 people, so it's not super crowded, and we just watch pretty bad horror movies on the regular. So
I love that.
That's how you could find us.
Awesome.
That's rad. All right. So heading into Stevia Sound Off, this is a section where Team Stevia sends us questions and takes, good or bad, we don't care. And as long as they're within reason, everyone on the show will answer them. So we post a weekly thread on our Instagram story and on our Twitter, and we even have a dedicated channel on our Discord for this section. So let's see what we have in the mailbag this week. So I ask, why are jump scares so scary? Because like that, I am the jumpiest person in the world. And I think that's why I'm not too big into horror, because jump scares are what gets me. The psychological stuff, love. The jump scares, hate.
Sure.
So yeah.
No, you're not alone. And like, honestly, even watching them, like, technically for my job, like for this podcast, I am the biggest jumper in the world. Like, I will get out of my seat and run. Like, sometimes I'm like, no. So don't feel like you're not, like, I don't feel like you're alone. And like, even the most like horror savvy people, they're lying if they say they don't jump, because I definitely do. And I know tons of people who do. I think it's just that caught by surprise element, just like, you know, you feel safe in the moment and then someone robs you of that. And I think sometimes jump scares can be awesome. Like Haunting of Hill House, the show, has the best jump scare of all time.
The best one.
It is, and it's smart because it's not just about scaring the audience, but it's actually like true to the character, true to the situation, and it's not just to shock you. It's actually literally trying to stop a moment forcefully, and like, you know, it's beautiful. I love that jump scare. And Insidious has like one of the best jump scares, but it's just fun. So sometimes people like that adrenaline part, but I personally get really annoyed at jump scares. I kind of feel like cheated. I'm like, stop trying to mess with me. Just let me watch the movie. So yeah, I don't think that you have to like jump scares. I don't know anyone who like looks forward to them. But I think it's just because you feel safe and they catch you by surprise. But if it makes you feel better, also, if you slow down a movie, if you like go back and watch it slower, whatever they're jumping at you usually looks terrible. It's usually like whatever is the lowest budget thing they have. And if you just like look at the actual image, you're like, that looks absolutely like arts and crafts. Like, that's
you
so
start
bad.
laughing. You're like, oh, that's actually funny.
Yeah, like, so I try to like make it a humorous experience. If I'm scared, I'm like, ha ha ha, and I just will laugh through it, which people don't like, but it helps me, so I don't care. Yeah.
And then these next questions, sorry, before you started, Lydia, these next questions, I think Stephen wanted us to rapid fire them so he gets our first instinct. So I think that's why we have so many from him, but I'm excited for him.
Okay, so rapid fire. Ready?
Yes.
Favorite horror movie of the oh so feel bad color saturated post 9/11/2000s?
The Ring.
The Ring.
I haven't seen The Ring, so I can't. I haven't seen really any horror movies, so I don't have an answer for this. So favorite found footage, Blair Witch Project.
That is an awesome one, and that's actually our episode coming out this week. So
ooh, nice.
Look out for the found footage episode. But I think mine would probably be Lake Mungo, which is a Australian horror movie.
Nice. Yeah. Favorite decade for horror?
I like mid 2000s, like which isn't a decade, I guess, but like 2010 to 2020, I think is pretty awesome because you see a range of like you know, kind of the jump scary things. But to me, that's kind of nostalgic fun because I was like getting out of high school at that point. So I was like with all my friends, but then we like move into these art house films where we're taking a lot of leaps. And then we also see more diversity coming into play, like Get Out happens. And,
Get Out.
Yeah. But I mean, like, what an accomplishment. I mean,
yeah.
So like we're unfortunately getting to the point where we're listening to more than one kind of storyteller. So I think that's been the most like exponential growth for horror. So probably that.
I guess is Parasite, would you call Parasite a horror film?
Oh, Lydia, it's such a debate. But I would say yes, because it's definitely horror adjacent. I would say it's a lot darker than I went into that movie totally blind, and I thought it was just going to be a Korean drama, and I was like, oh no,
holy cow. So that might be my favorite movie, actually.
It's amazing.
I was on the fence about it for a while, remember, Stephen, but it was an Oscar nom, and then it won, and I was like, oh crap, now I gotta watch it. And then I watched it, and it was like, I need to watch it again.
Yes I had actually, so on that Midsommar episode we did, Colby was working at Circle Cinema, and he's like, you need to come and see Parasite before it leaves. And I was like, no, you know, I don't really watch, like, I thought it was like going to be like a melodrama kind of thing. I was like, oh, I'm not going to really enjoy that. He's like, Jenna, it's for you. You need to watch this. And then I watched it, and then I've made my friends watch it, and rewatching it is awesome because you see so many hidden details in there. But I would say it's at least horror adjacent because there's definitely horror elements in there. It's probably more of a thriller, I would say, but I don't know. Like defining horror is such a frustrating thing to me because I'm like, were you scared? It's horror. Like,
Yeah.
Like, did the Mike Myers Cat in the Hat movie scare you? It's a horror movie.
Yes.
Oh,
Boom.
Yeah. Another one. All right. Okay. I think my favorite decade for horror is the 2010s. I think I've seen most horror movies that I've seen in the 2010s. And then next up is, what movie left you sad or melancholy after, like The Orphanage?
Oh, The Orphanage. Oh my God. Oh man. Yeah, that movie. Good for him. That's a great suggestion. Yeah. So Guillermo del Toro, I'm pretty sure, produced The Orphanage. And so if like Pan's Labyrinth is a great example of one that just makes you feel gutted at the end. Actually, that Lake Mungo movie I just talked about is one of the most emotional horror movies I've ever seen. And I was crying tears of like sadness, not fear. And even I'll hand it to Midsommar. Like the first 15 minutes of that movie are absolutely heartbreaking. So there's a lot, horror and tragedy like really, really go hand in hand. The Babadook's another good example of that kind of feeling. So that's a good question.
Awesome. So the next one is, what is a critically maligned movie that you will defend to the end?
Oh, well, you know what? Actually, recently I watched Let's Scare Jessica to Death, which is from the 70s, and I think it's early 70s, like 73 maybe. And on Rotten Tomatoes, it has 30%, which is sacrilege. It's so cool. And I had never seen it before, but I just had a friend who was like, "Oh, I think you would really enjoy it." And it's very dreamy. It's not scary. So Stephen, you'd be fine. There's no jump scares whatsoever. It's like pure atmosphere. But it's like basically these people moved to a house. This man's wife, Jessica, she had a psychiatric break right before, and they're moving to the country, your typical, haunted house setup. But actually, like, this strange hippie woman moves in with them, and it's hinted that she might be a vampire, but don't go into that movie expecting answers, but it's like an influence for David Lynch, if that kind of helps you know the tone. And so that movie deserves way more than 30%. And it's purposely vague, but that was like the criticism at the time, was like, I don't know what's happening. It's like, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to think you're going crazy. So I think that movie is awesome. Everyone should watch it. It's great. Watch it when it's raining. It's a great rainy movie.
And then on the other side of the coin, which I think you've already answered, what's one you don't agree with the hype on, and is that Midsommar?
Yeah. But I don't want to dismiss people who enjoy it. I mean, but that's definitely the one I'm the most contentious about. Like, I used to feel that way about Mandy, and then I rewatched Mandy. I was like, I actually kind of like this, so never mind about that one. Yeah, I would have to say it's probably Midsommar. Like, I just don't, my issue is I don't think it was intentional, a lot of the things that people are picking up on, but that's what art is, everyone gets multiple interpretations. So who am I to say it's good or bad? I just don't think it's like a masterpiece. But that's okay. That's seriously, it's just like me and Lydia. Like, I don't know anyone, my partner as well, but that's it. Like, I don't know anyone who feels the same. So
yeah, me neither. I mean, my circle all liked it. Even my husband, he even liked it, and he doesn't even like movies like that. And he was like, "This is a good movie." I'm like, I don't know about this, sir.
My worry is like, people always look at that movie and they're like, "Yeah, girl boss, she's empowered." I'm like, she's literally getting forced to do everything she does. Yeah, and that is not empowering.
This is not girl boss moment.
I think that's why the end is so satisfying, though. Whenever that final part of that is released, I think that's why I liked it so much.
But everyone's like, oh, see, she's empowered because she does this thing. And I'm like, well, she was manipulated to do that this entire time.
True.
Which, as long as you realize that, awesome. Makes me concerned for people that are like, yes, get it, queen. Yes. I'm
Nancy
like, no.
Pelosi, queen. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, hashtag girl boss. No, not for this.
She was emotionally abused the whole ride.
And it was all by a guy who was like, well, I'm a nice guy. So I'm like,
I'm the nice
as long as you can see that, awesome. If you walked away thinking it's empowering, reassess quickly. Hurry.
Please go back.
yeah, just for society's sake. Like,
Right. Okay. So the last question is favorite old creepy pasta.
oh man, I was not super into creepypastas as a person, but the ones I did read were like this Slender Man. Like, I mean, Slender Man is the creepypasta best actor. Like so I definitely got into Slender Man. I was just talking about him the other day. Did you guys ever watch Marble Hornets? I feel like I'm crazy about this.
Mm-mm.
It was like these like found footage shorts on YouTube about Slender Man, but no one knew it was about Slender Man until like 15 shorts in, and then you like go back and watch, and he's like hidden throughout all of the older ones. So that was definitely like the thing that was cool to me. But then of course we have the true crime case of the girls that stabbed someone because of Slender Man. So it's like that's kind of ruined. But that was the only creepypasta I can remember reading. I definitely remember trying to scare myself like in a cemetery reading those, but I think Slender Man's definitely the one that stands out.
Yeah, Slender Man.
Awesome.
Also, if you Google creepypasta, this really creepy video comes up. Top 10 scariest creepypastas, and I'm now exiting.
Well, I'll go follow it after because I love those like short, scary stories. And I love when people frame it as this is a true story. This really happened. I almost always fall for it. Like I'm like, well,
me
what
too.
if it is?
Every time. Every time.
It ruins my life sometimes where I'm like, it could happen to me. A stairway could appear in the middle of the woods. That was one I saw recently. I think that was a no sleep, which is a Reddit thing. But like, I was like, what if I see a stairway in the woods? So yeah, I take them a little too seriously.
Awesome. Well, Jenna, thank you so much for joining us today. Hopefully you had a really good time. I know we had a really good time.
Oh yeah. It's nice to not be the host. It's nice to know I don't have to edit this at all. I just hop on.
Your boy is doing that tonight. So
listen to yourself tomorrow.
Yes, thank you guys for having me. It was really a great time, and please come on. Even if you want to talk about why you're scared of certain movies, that would totally count.
Maybe what we can do is you all can give me a list of movies to watch, and then I'll go watch them, and then we can see what I thought about them or something, because I've seen like two
homework.
movies. Yeah. But that's something that's totally up to y'all, and I'm down for it. So
yeah,
cool.
I'd be down. That'd be fun.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, be sure to follow us on all the social media platforms with the handle at The Stevia Show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whichever podcast app you listen to. If you're on YouTube, search for The Stevia Show and subscribe, and be sure to smash that notification button.
Make sure to check out our streams. We stream at least once a week. Streams can be found on Twitch at twitch.tv/lidwins. Wow. And twitch.tv/STVN92. Follow us on all social medias to find stream schedules. Anchor and Patreon producers are able to join in on multiplayer streams as well.
And we also have merchandise available through our links in our bio and show notes. So whenever you visit us online, click on our link tree and click on merch, and we ship nationwide as well. And finally, funding for The Stevia Show is brought to you in part by the following.
Bravado Wireless is your go-to when it comes to all things connected. Whether it's a new phone, home internet, or smart accessories, Bravado Wireless has it all. Right now, you can get a Samsung A11, Samsung 20 FE, or iPhone 11 at half the cost. That's right, 50% off any of these phones throughout March. For more information, call your local Bravado Wireless store or head to bravadowireless.com.
As well as community members like you. Remember, you can support us on Anchor or Patreon for as little as 99 cents a month. Thank you. And also be sure to follow Scream Service on whichever podcast app you listen to. Be sure to support on Patreon, all of that good stuff. And I need to go back and listen to the Midsommar episode for sure.
I'm excited.
Again, Jenna, it was great talking to you today. But for now, this is Steven. Oh, I think she's down here for me. Yeah.
Oh, is it me, Jenna?
Yeah.
This is Jenna?
Yep.
Okay. you guys are like pointing down and then sideways, and I'm like in the corner. I'm like, well, I don't know where that is.
It's always harder to do that on Zoom because we never know which way everybody is.
To a ghost. You're like,
right.
And I'm like, I don't know.
Who's above? I don't
know. Sorry.
And this is Lydia.
And we will see you all later.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.